Welcome to the Opinionated Fox, a fox with too many opinions that needs a release. Today I am reading the oh-so-classic and wonderful RPG Horror Stories, coming from the amazing subreddit RPGHorrorStories, the one and only place to get the worst of the worst, sometimes mild at best, of stories. Today's story comes from ThatWaterAmerican, and the title is Non-Combatants and Mounts Get an Equal Share of the XP. Let's get on with it. My 5e group had been playing a milestone-based progression system for about 5 years. Then we moved to our first XP-based game, and it was a total disaster. The most obvious issue was that we only got XP for combat, and solving a prepared encounter non-violently meant 0 XP. Meaning we had several sessions where we received no XP at all for a 6-hour game. This was pretty important because the late game was unforgiving difficulty-wise. About 3 sessions in, we finally left the main city and we were tasked with escorting a character to another location. The paladin uses his fine steed and the party buys another mount for the journey. Along the way, the party encounters 2 more NPCs, both non-combatants with no stat block. They don't even get tokens during fights. We rescue them from a zombie horde and the end of the session is near. DM calculates the XP and says, so there are 5 of you, but you have 2 mounts and we're escorting 3 people. So the total XP is split between 10 people. We argue with the DM for a bit, saying that the NPCs don't have levels and the steed is summoned, that the last 2 NPCs joined us at the last second of the session. The DM put his foot down and said that this was the way it was going to be. In the next session, we insisted that if the people we're escorting get XP, they should be able to help in combat. The DM agreed, and that was when we gave him enough rope to hang himself. Wait, what the f***? And that was when we gave him enough rope to hang himself. Are you okay? What the f***? What kind of sentence is that? I think I'm stupid, I don't get it. First random encounter of the night was a pack of wild Axebeaks. Axebeaks won the initiative and the DM killed 2 of the NPCs, including our quest giver, before we got a chance to act. When the 3rd died, the DM was furious, claiming that it was metagaming for us not to protect them, especially since doing so was part of our side quest. We reminded him that he chose to have the monsters attack NPCs who don't even have a stat block. He chose not to give the NPCs death saves. The only thing we asked for was that they get tokens on the map. He did the rest. From that encounter, the DM abruptly ended the session and didn't talk to any of us for a week. Then he came back with standard party-only XP rules, acting like nothing happened. But the NPCs were still dead. Okay, I mean, it's not the worst that I've seen, but at the same time, what a that DM's a I mean, first off, XP to level up is honestly one of the worst ways you could play an RPG in my personal opinion. I mean, we have Milestone for a reason. We have literally one of the best DMs I've ever seen who makes a great point about why Milestone is better for EXP, or at least giving EXP for non-combat. I mean, shit.
If you do exclusively combat XP, every single Wizard Academy in your world should say, "Greetings, students. Welcome to Wizard Academy. Today we're going to go slaughter goblins."
Yep.
And you go like, why? Shouldn't we be reading? It's like, reading? You're not going to get good at magic from reading, my man. You got to get out there and kill people. You want to get good at magic? People got to die.
I mean, come on. Who can argue with what he says? Literally, all hail the holy man. But, yeah, no, the guy's a clearly he got his shit together after a week of realizing he was in the wrong, probably by being told he was in the wrong. But nonetheless, let's move on to the next story. This story is brought to us by Polanndish, and the title is First Time Playing D&D Went Horribly, Almost Made Me Want to Quit Because of the DM. Let's get to this one. For context, this was about a year ago in my high school's D&D club, so you could imagine it was already going to be pretty janky with 1 session a week, not everyone being able to make it to a session, and a very limited amount of time to play. My friend, I'll call him Mike, and our other friend had been in the club since freshman year, and had played pretty cool campaigns from what I've heard. I had been wanting to get into D&D for a while. At this point, I was excited when the school year started up again, and I could finally join one of the campaigns from the beginning. Now, since our friend group couldn't join the club that year, it was just me and Mike. We made our characters together and linked our backstories as well just for fun after getting permission from the guy who was supposed to be our DM. I say supposed to because he ended up dropping out of the school 3 sessions in and left us with another DM, Kyle, who was actually supposed to be the player that year. Now I knew Kyle from a different clubs I was in, so even though we were acquaintances at best, it helped ease my anxiety about our other DM leaving, though that trust turned out to be misplaced. Sin 1. Restrictions on magic users and an entire party of first-time players. I'm not going to say that I didn't do this to myself, because I kinda did, but when we transferred from our first DM to Kyle, we started the story all over again. New environment, new backstory, and more importantly, new mechanics. Kyle warned us that magic users would be nerfed and have to make Winds of Magic roll before we rolled a hit. And it's essentially like permanent disadvantage, but if you roll really low on wins, you could end up hitting yourself with the spell you were trying to cast, which is how one of our warlocks died in an arena fight, which I'll talk about later. I don't think anyone made a new character because all of us were newbies, aside from Mike. And I didn't want to spend all day making another character sheet when we had a perfectly good one ready to go, me included. Now, I'm sure this might be fun for some players with more experience, but I was struggling to pick up which spell I even wanted to use on my turn when it came around. Adding the fact that to even use a spell, you had to get 2 successes in a row, anyone who wanted to use magic was struggling. And of the 8 players, 5 of us were magic users. 5. And all of us were first-time players. At first, I just like to say, I feel kind of bad for Kyle, even though he's turning out to be a douche who doesn't know game design. 8 players? Man, I can barely run a game with like 5. And that's my max. Maybe even 6. 8? Dude, even Matt Mercer doesn't run with 8 players. His limit's like 7. And that's still insane. Okay, back to the story. Sin 2. Disjointed Story. Our campaign got cut off short, and I'm all the happier because of it. But it went something like this. We are hired by the King's Army to search for what essentially was the Lost City of Gold. We get to a town, bought a very overpriced tent that we used once and still got robbed in. Go on a month-long journey to get to another city, which can then help us get to the Lost City. We roll good on the way there, and only run into a group of bandits who wanted to toll us, which one of our warlocks was able to convince to let us pass through. We then make our way to the Lost City after visiting the Pit Stop City. Only one building is standing in the Lost City, and there's a large church across a chasm in the center, which was our destination. We look in the house, find the city was invaded by rat people, and get attacked by a few rat people, and find the basement of the house leads to an underground tunnel / cave thing, where we fight a really overpowered Drake that we were only able to win against because of the Weed Whacker. Mike's character, which he accidentally min-maxed, that I'll get to later. Apparently, we were supposed to die in this fight, and Kyle was not pleased we had won. He ended up pulling all the stops during this session, and the Weed Hacker wasn't there to protect the rest of the party, and I wasn't there to heal them. Divine Soul subclass. They entered a gladiator pit and had to fight a horde of skeletons. Kyle took the cop out and just said that Mike and I died in the fight. I can already tell that's... Get to that at the end of the story. We all wake up in some godly realm with a god telling us that we were there because we were champions, warriors. Our dumb warlock thought it'd be good to ask the god if they could be sent to hell or some equivalent, and Kyle basically said, "Okay, sure. You get sent to hell, you have to fight your way out, and if you die, it's permanent." Then our paladin and barbarian also asked to get sent to hell to help the warlock escape. They somehow fought their way back without dying, and then all 8 of us pulled out of the gods area and sends us to the arena by some sort of malevolent force. Each of us were then put head to head in a bracket-style tournament, where if we fail a wisdom save at the beginning of the match, we see the other person as some sort of monster. The Weed Whacker wins, but only because he couldn't make it to the club the day the last battle was supposed to take place. Kyle once again took a cop-out and said the Weed Whacker won without giving our rogue a fighting chance at winning the tournament. After this, we all jump from level 6 to level 10, and we are revived back into the original world with the Weed Whacker nowhere to be seen. I ended up getting COVID soon after that, so I couldn't be there for the next 2 sessions, but I was basically filled in that we had a quest from some guy who hired us to find the king of a neighboring country and either bring him the king's head or find a way to get him to be the king. We had 12 months of in-game time to do this. We first tried to get on a boat that sails straight to our goal by passing through a large city, but our dumbass warlock tries to steal a dagger. The blacksmith then beats him up, and he loses one of his eyes permanently, then gets robbed of literally everything. Then our paladin, rogue, druid, and barbarian hatch a plan to steal everything back from the blacksmith because he also ripped off the paladin. And I have to go with them because the blacksmith was really strong, and I know they're gonna need to be healed. We all go to the blacksmith's house, we get a successful check to see if he's awake, then Kyle straight up tells us there aren't any traps, so we obviously believe him, but we know he had something planned because he had cackling non-stop before playing out the scenario. As the rogue and barbarian go upstairs to where the vulnerable stuff is, me and the paladin and the druid are downstairs keeping watch. I'm the closest to the door, so Kyle tells me I hear something thud outside. Gave me the option to either look, not investigate, or open the door, just look, at the noise, or go up the stairs. I look, and it was the rogue's body with a harpoon in its chest. Then I get shot in the chest by a harpoon, and I was told I was immediately knocked unconscious despite being a whole-ass door. Everybody else gets shot, and we all wake up in a jail cell. That was the end of the campaign. Kyle didn't show up for any more sessions for the rest of the year, and he also stopped showing up to the other clubs I was in with him. Did I mention he was also the president of that club? You did not mention he was the president of that club, and I got to say, goddamn, man pulled some weird shit out of his ass. But, you know, I mean, for every first DM, I'll even admit myself, I had sucky-ass stories. You were gonna have sucky-ass stories. Don't expect to be like god-tier storyteller. Don't expect to be Brennan or Matt Mercer, like goddamn, or Abria. Don't expect to be any of those famous people. You know? I mean, shit. If it was fun, it was fun. But from the sound of it, you didn't have fun. Let's continue on with the story.
Sin 3. Punishing players that annoyed him.
In one of our first battles, my friend's character, which I affectionately dubbed the Weed Whacker, a Tri-Queen fighter, which held a sword in each of its hands, almost single-handedly wiped out most of the guys we were fighting, because when we were having fun making characters, he had accidentally min-maxed the Weed Whacker to all hell and didn't realize the beast he had created until we actually started playing. Now, our original DM found this really funny, but also realized that he would need to nerf Mike's character at some point, and they agreed that his bottom arms would get mangled in a freak accident somewhere down the line just to make things fair. But this was never disclosed with Kyle, and so he did what me and Mike considered to be a bad move. After the Weed Whackers won the tournament, he was told that his character was now permanently chaotic evil, and he had to make a new character sheet because Kyle was going to turn the Weed Whacker into the new BBGE. That didn't happen though, because Kyle never progressed the story to that point, which meant Mike didn't get to play with us for any of the sessions after that because Kyle never got to introduce his new character. Another example was during the tournament, especially my fight with the rogue. In the center of the arena was a black hole trapped in glass. Eventually the glass would break if we didn't kill each other in time. Apparently we both spent too long trying to figure out what we wanted to do in the minutes after the battle started, and Kyle said, "The glass breaks, and because you took too long, you both die." Similar example. Our two warlocks were fighting, and the competent one decides to cast Eldritch Blast, which should have won him the fight, but he rolled low on Winds of Magic and ended up dying in his own spell. Kinda similar, but at one point our dumb decided to wander off into the woods and then got chased down by a pack of wolves. I had to use Revivify once we found them, and Kyle said that they are permanently lost 1 intelligence score after being revived. Again, during the blacksmith arc, our dumb got his eye stabbed out for no reason. And when we tried to get his stuff back, we got harpooned in the chest with no chance of fighting back against an enemy with bullshit passive perception of 23.
And finally, Sin 4. He never came to the club.
Kyle was just never there, and most of the time canceled on us without warning. If he was there for 1 week, then rest assured the next 2 weeks he wouldn't be there. Of the 36 weeks during the school year, taking off 5 for character creation and the DM switch, he only showed up maybe 10 sessions in total. In the club he was literally president of, it took the teacher leading the club to tell him, if you're not coming to the club, then we're gonna demote you from president. He then started coming every other week. And even then, sometimes he wouldn't be there for 2 weeks in a row. He just ghosted everyone for the last month of school. Final thoughts. I just really needed to get this off my chest. I've only started playing one more campaign since this train wreck, but it had been going so much better. Looking back at it, I think he realized that he wasn't going to be able to finish the campaign, so he just decided to TPK us instead. And when that didn't work, he decided to stop coming to the club. End of story. Wow. Okay, I mean, that's an interesting story. I liked it. That was fun. That was fun to read. But, thoughts? Lessons you can learn? I don't know. He's an asshole. Don't play with assholes. Okay, I'll go into more in depth of what, he did wrong specifically, if you guys were wondering. First off, restricting any kind of character, especially when you're a new DM, from what it sounds like, these people were still in high school. They were still learning how to play D&D. Putting restrictions on magic or on other things that you don't really know much about is not typically a good idea. I get that magic just tend to be on the more stronger side, but just as shown from Mike's Thry-Kreen fighter, martials can be a bit overpowered too. So, putting restrictions on shit is not fun, especially for your first MDM. You're just gonna make the game more bogged down. The Sin 2, the disjointed story, I can't really blame that on the DM. I mean, really think about it. The DM had just started. He's still learning. Stories are hard unless you have, thorough planning and thorough, headspace for it. Sometimes you just don't, and it's hard, it's difficult. But as long as you have fun with your friends, I think that's all that matters. Sin 3. Punishing players that annoyed him. Now that's just a bitch move. And his idea of annoying, aka, hey, you're stronger than I thought, so I'm just going to kill you, is you did. That's just being a bitch. If you are having trouble with a character's strength, or min-max at this point, talk to them about it. Simple. Just fucking talk to them. I'm sure they're willing, most people are willing to just, make a new character, dumb down their character so that they're less min-maxy, or if they're not fit for your game, kick them out. Problem solved. And lastly, ghosting everyone is just not cool, man. Why you gotta be a douche? Why do you gotta be a dick about it? But either way, fun story overall. Had an enjoyable experience reading it. Dude, okay, I have to get this off my chest because I hate this. I always hated the thought of almost made me want to quit. Okay, let's move on to the next story. This story is brought to you by Pitfall Lock 2867, and the title is, Am I the Bad Guy for Not Having Fun at the Table? So I just came back to a long-standing campaign after a 4-month hiatus due to my wife and I having our child. Prior to this, I've been in a fantasy homebrew setting that my friend made, and from what I can tell, everyone else at the table, 6 PCs, all were having a great time. I just came back, and my character leveled up 3 levels, and the DM gave him a really cool magical weapon to scale with the rest of the party. And I was super excited to get back into the fray. However, after coming back, my character was introduced back into the group because he had sought out their help to fight off a wicked disease spreading in my hometown. However, upon arrival, my first session back was during a wedding ceremony to one of the other players whose story had been wrapped up. And at the end of the ceremony, 20 or so high-level PCs that he had let us know apparently all were able and ready to cast Counterspell, were ready to arrest the entire party for a series of events that culminated in us freeing a slaved race of Rose Elves. He had made it very apparent that it was either death by combat or go with them, so already starting to feel a bit railroaded, but I was willing to go along with it and see where it was going. So we get whisked away to some impenetrable prison city, locked away in a separate jail cells, and was told out of character that we couldn't cast any spells over first level without being caught/counterspelled. There was a common area with a bunch of previous NPCs we met that were also arrested, and apparently you can bribe around to get messages sent to other party members, but that can take up to 2 weeks to get an answer back. No one knew what to do, and with 6 people at the table, 1 player at a time would speak at a random NPC and RP for about 30 real-time minutes. So you would wait extremely long to talk to anyone, and some people wouldn't even talk at all for the entire session. Me and another PC managed to get exchanged to the same cell block and tried to break out, but were met with a warden that's level 17 and carries a vorpal sword, and has legendary resistances, and literally impossible. Despite a very calculated effort, we were thrown back into our cells and told to wait it off, and we could be in there for several in-game months before anything was resolved. The player that tried to break out said at the end of the session that no hard feelings, but he wasn't having fun for several sessions and decided to drop out of the campaign. This greatly hurt the DM's feelings, but he did it very appropriately, I thought. He took it very hard, and the next weeks of floundering about trying to get through the session, I waited until the end of the session to see if things improved before I mentioned I wasn't having fun, but they didn't. So I decided to open a dialogue about me not enjoying the direction of things, but still loved him as a DM, and would still love to play. And I just wanted to voice my concern to see if any course of correction would happen. But he just shut down and ghosted me for a while, and now he's shutting his game down for the foreseeable future. And now I feel guilty. I know for a fact that 50% of the players at the table felt the same way as we all discussed it. So yeah, am I wrong for voicing my concerns? Should I have waited several more sessions of not having any fun before saying something? Or should I have just finished the arc and kept it to myself? TLDR, come back from a D&D hiatus to be thrown into a long jail saga with a party where it seems like no one has agency. It couldn't last for several sessions. Told DM I felt a bit railroaded to start a dialogue, and shortly thereafter, instead of talking about it, he got his feelings hurt and quit the campaign. What did I do wrong? Well, my good boy, my good precious little, what was your name again? My good little precious little pitful lock. Nothing! Verdict. Not the asshole? I don't know, you're not an asshole for this, obviously. You weren't having fun, you voiced your opinion, and he got butthurt and decided to end the campaign. Sounds like a him issue. Sounds like he couldn't handle criticism. It sounded like he had an idea, and was just trying to push it. Wanted to have a cool little jail arc, probably saw it in some anime or a TV show or whatever, and decided that this is what that's gonna be. This is what's gonna be, because that's what he had fun with. Obviously you weren't having fun, and you had every right to voice your opinion. Shit, that last guy who left was okay to leave. He did it very respectfully, saying, hey, not having fun, I'm just dropping out. And he left. And you should have probably done the same, but I mean, it looks like the DM did it for you. With that being said, this has been the Opinionated Fox. I have given you my opinions, they have been released, and I am happy to have made this video. If you want to check out other things I have to say, you can follow me on @OpinionatedFox on Twitter. Or if you just simply want to, just want to wait until I post again, hit the like, subscribe, and the bell, and I will hopefully see you all in the next video.